Hello, hello, and welcome to this edition of the Law Firm Blueprint. I'm one of your hosts, Jay Ruane, and with me, as always, is my man, Seth Price. Seth, it's getting cold on the East Coast.
It
How you
is.
doing this week?
We got some snow today. It's a bit much. In one sense, the fact that we can work remotely is the game changer. It used to be bad weather, we'd be out of business for a few days. And one of the few benefits of the remote work world is that. Now, we did not have kids at home today, but when you do, whole other story, right? Remote work, great. But back in the day when remote work was just corporate, we wouldn't think about doing it. And
Right.
there was always rules, like you needed a dedicated office and you had to have childcare. All that stuff seems to have gone away, meaning there's no pretense that we are actually doing any best practices to be productive. You're productive, people are productive, but we all know that if kids are home from school that one day and there's nothing else, and there's not, you have two different constituents to be dealing with.
So here's one of the things that we're toying with for 2026. We have a very flexible workspace. Lawyers are free to come and go as they please. We have a lot of staff, even in state, that have elected to work from home for multiple reasons. Even my COO is home pretty much 5 days a week doing her meetings and stuff. My firm administrator is here 2 days a week in office, but they're 3/4 days. They're not full days. We are considering doing something that I read about called anchor days, where anchor days are everybody's in.
Right.
And so we're going to do, either 2 anchor days a quarter, maybe 1 anchor day a month, something like that, just because I think something might be lost with everyone that's remote.
That far. Okay. So BluShark went from 100% in office, COVID, Gen Z millennials didn't want to touch anything. So we went back to a clubhouse model where it's once a week teams come to
Okay.
the office.
But not everybody comes the same day.
Everybody comes the same day. Or
They do.
What?
Everybody does come the same day.
Correct.
Okay.
And we do that. It could be department by department. It's not always the entire. But
Okay.
what happens over time is less and less people are local, because once you allow remote, then it's you have a person in Florida, wherever they happen to be.
Right.
So you have all of that. I think that the struggle is real. You're seeing corporate America, especially like the power players like Amazon, bring people back. There's a lot of value in being back. There's huge value in not. I'm very torn because I know that we keep, retain, and are giving people raises by allowing remote work. But I'm also well aware that there's massive slippage. Some people say, hey, if you have great KPIs, it shouldn't matter. The problem is, and something that we struggle with, is that there are a lot of one-off jobs where you don't, your KPIs may not be as tight as they should be.
Right.
And
Right.
That's the struggle is real. We saw a lot of stuff where somebody's holding 2 jobs at once, and things like that. I see it. Government worker friends, out mowing their lawns in the middle of the day. Should it matter? They get their work done, but it's we deal with that. So you're not talking about bringing people back, but you're saying, hey, even if you're an hour and a half away, once a month you're going to be in the office as a full team. I think that's a great idea. I am now looking at the other end of this, which is okay. Our personal injury department, a lot more people in regularly because they're in litigation, they're working as a team, they're there. Family law, for instance, they're there. But our criminal defense has always been pretty disassociated. And the question now I have is, the number one question we get at Masterminds is the office manager, law firm administrator, COO, that continuum, that main person. Then the question is there a catch-all person under that person, an executive assistant or something there? We've always had we've added a head of HR and benefits and things like that, which should be the number 2. But a lot of these people are remote. In my case, that person is remote at the law firm. And we're sort of struggling with what are the roles that are needed to be in office? What can go overseas? What should be divided amongst paralegals so everybody has a job? But do you need a person there to keep the pantry stocked, to clean up, to do these things? Or is it better to have a cleaning person that comes in after hours? what I mean. There's a cleaning person in the office, but doesn't do our personal stuff. It does
Right.
general stuff. But just like Amazon struggles with that last mile, like getting shit to your door from the warehouse, and you see a whole hodgepodge of contractors doing a bunch of different things. Someday it may be drones, that are bringing to us. What do we like? Are you allowing for any budget for physical in-office things, or are you dividing it up amongst other people at the firm?
So what we have done is that we have essentially staffed our receptionist position in the offices proper. So we've got 3 staffed offices. We have a receptionist team of 4. 3 of the 4 people are in offices. One of them is actually overseas. But that way, they have a job of meeting somebody who needs to come in to sign something because they can't sign a DocuSign because they are functionally, incapable of doing it. With some of our older clients and some of our foreign language speakers, they need somebody to march them through
So
that
you have
process.
3 physical receptionists.
Yeah. Well, because and I don't need that.
Well,
I could outsource all of my reception to
yeah.
overseas, but I made an executive decision. Look, if I was going to spend 20K overseas for each person, why not spend 40K and have that front smiling face at my office, to be there, to be
Well, the
able
question is,
to.
can you get and keep a person for 40K in your market domestically?
I have been able to. I mean,
Yeah.
they're going to get raises this year, but
These are
it's
new. These are
people.
new positions, or you've always had people.
These are new. These are new. We didn't have reception.
See, to me, again, it's the yin yang, right? I'm now looking at first years because I can't staff, right? I was historically, for those who watch the show, I've always
Right.
gone the 3rd to 8th year. So to me, I'm like, I think you got to be careful what you ask for, because this to me is what I struggle with. The junior position there. Get You may be a savant and get the right person, but in my market in DC, nobody's staying. And granted, this is a city position. Nobody's staying for 40,000 for any length of time. Just not. If somebody's to be in office, the commute itself is going to knock out $6,000-7,000 worth of salary.
Well, you're in a high end area
Understood.
that
But even not. I mean,
I'm not like.
no, no.
I mean, I might be paying 60 if I were in, if my
Understood. But even
offices were in other areas,
what
but they're
I'm
not.
finding is the lowest. This is sort of my existential crisis. My lowest paid person, right? Let's say it's going to be 60, and you hope to hold on to them. If they have any gumption, they're not going to stay. And so you end up with people that may be a source of drama, that really are not as, are you going to be able to get people that hit your core values, that show up, that are there? Are these full-time jobs? Is it a part-time job? Are you getting semi-retirees? Like, what are you doing? Because to me, 40 grand, I don't know how you're keeping a sustainable person in play in Connecticut's not cheap.
No, but there are parts of Connecticut that are, and that's where I have my offices. I pulled my offices out of the cities. They're in the suburbs. They're in the valley areas where it's less expensive. It's not cheap. But here's what we're doing. We are targeting people. This is what I have found. Your mileage may vary. Our listeners' mileage may vary. I found a significant number of people applying for a receptionist job who had been a appointment setter at a dentist's office or a doctor's office, and they were making $20 an hour. And guess what? The office laid them off because they went with an automated AI, online booking, all that stuff. So I had people in 50 plus that were like, I don't know what to do. They got
No,
rid
no,
of my job.
I get that that's out there.
So that's who we have
Besides reception,
targeted.
what do you have them doing besides reception? So you have 3 people, $120,000 investment plus benefits, presumably, right?
Right.
And plus raises. So I'm going to be conservative and say we're at $1.60
So
investment.
they check the mail. They get the mail. They scan it. They send it to the people that need to handle those things that comes in the mail. They're there to meet clients. I mean, in my business, we still have a lot of people who want to show up and pay cash. So they're there to count cash, get it into the safe, or make the deposits as necessary. They're there to prep conference rooms for depositions. I volunteer my conference rooms out to every PI and insurance defense firm because we rarely use them, but we have them. So all my referral partners knows they can get, and so they have water set up and that type of thing. So they're there for that.
Well, and I guess the
They're
issue
doing fulfillment for me if we're sending out books and that type of thing. So yeah, okay. Are they working? Like, am I cracking a whip 8 hours a day? No, but I'm getting 6 to 7 hours of work out of them. Plus,
and
they're on top of the phones. I mean, we have thousands of text messages a year. I mean, we have somebody in reception that rotates whose sole job is text message reception.
But that doesn't have to be domestic or in your office.
It doesn't, but it helps a lot easier if you have somebody who natively grew up speaking English.
No, that 100%. What about the drama level? That's the other piece that
well, the good thing is that there's less drama because they're usually they're in the office, and most of the paralegal and mid-level staff are out of the office, and so they're able to assist the attorneys, and there's really little drama.
Do you have criminal paralegals?
We do.
Yeah, and I'm always sort of figuring out. We have less and less people in the office itself. Very heavy DocuSign. We're not really doing many of
they just DocuSign just came to us and said you need to be on an unlimited plan, like 15 grand a month because we send so many envelopes.
Wow, that sounds high, but
15 grand a year, not a month.
Yeah, sounds bad. We pay a lot because we integrate into Salesforce. Every time anything integrates to Salesforce,
the price is going to go up.
Yeah. But I am, we're sitting there and we're like, we've had a bunch of sort of epic meltdowns where a farewell party for six, or a birthday party of six people ended up with $450 of chicken wings. We're not like, we're sort of struggling between who's making, the buying decisions plus who's actually doing the things. And again, we don't have three of them. The question is how much is really needed at what price point and what is the benefit there? You're still running, it sounds like, to a certain extent, if there's that much cash is coming in to these offices, that there's still a piece.
There's an absolute value having somebody to receive cash and get it into a safe or get it to a bank. And file the forms that we need to file. Prepare the forms that we need to file with the IRS when you're getting significant handfuls of cash. The PI lawyers don't know this. Family lawyers may not know this, but on the criminal side, you absolutely know this. You get more than $10,000 in cash, you got to file with the IRS, and you got to do it in a tight timeline to get it done.
And so we actually had the life.
But let me. You brought something up, and it's not the first time you've brought this up on the show. And it was we had six people and $450 worth of chicken wings. Here's a very simple system to solve that. When we do an event, there's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 type events, right? Tier 1 this is our big event for the year. This is
there's a budget.
Referral partners. The per head price we're willing to spend, $75 to $100. Tier 2 it's referral sources, that type of thing. Tier 3 this is an in-office thing for us. $25 a head is the spend budget. So you get your number of people that are coming and you spend it. And we allow up to 3 or 4 people who said they were coming, RSVP'd yes, and didn't show up. You go over that, then you have explaining to do. If you don't go over that, you got no explaining to do. You ordered extra set of wings and you took some home for your kids.
No. And obviously we're talking about orders of magnitude.
Right, but I'm saying you just create the system.
Right. So lost train of thought. But two pieces. I know getting Jay out of focus is always it.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm so out of focus. Let me see if I can.
And the question is, which brings me to a bigger issue, which we had our light bulb moment, which is we have departments. We use EOS in our firm, and in theory, stuff goes back to the departments. The issue du jour for us was the realization that some people were using task management, like an Asana, and some people were just slacking things to be done with no level of accountability, and frankly, not the ability to see what somebody was doing or not doing.
Okay.
And that which comes back to, most of the listeners of the show are trying to figure out how to get that one non-lawyer juggernaut at the firm. And what I'm finding now, just like mid-level management, I'm now finding the challenge is how to effectively leverage a second tier legal administrator. What do they do? Because we also ran, I use a chicken wing example, we ran to the issue where we assigned, for example, a lease to be negotiated by somebody with no idea.
Oh, I can't imagine Seth Price being happy with
No,
that.
no, that was a bad situation. And it was worse in that it was like there's a certain amount, and I always say this, like recruiters, anybody in this world who wants to use a recruiter, you would think, hey, I'm paying 20%, they should be happy to use me. It doesn't work like that,
Right.
especially in our micro world. If you're not big law, getting a recruiter to focus on you for a paralegal or lawyer, very difficult. And the only way it even has a shot is if you have a conversation with the recruiter, you show them their job description, and then you spend 10 or 15 minutes talking about your culture and a bunch of BS. And I say BS in that they don't care. Most
Right.
recruiters, they're in for the buck, they want to make a match, but it's sort of like the dating profile. I love to travel, family means everything. They hate their family, they've never left the state. So, you're dealing with a situation where I almost want I want a bot, and they don't want the bot, but an international person to speak to the recruiter just so there's buy-in, just that time. And if you don't just spend the time, there's no chance they're going to work with you.
Well, I mean, at your size, isn't it better to just place a person who's a recruiter in
What do
your
we
in
do
your
when you go beyond that? When you need
Gotcha.
something beyond, like there are times when you're like, hey, we're not getting what we like. Whole nother issue, issue I've had this week, which is our recruiters were only working off of LinkedIn, right?
Oh,
Which is very, very powerful. But
yeah.
the question is, what happens if you have somebody you'd like to speak to, but they don't respond to your LinkedIn message?
Right.
And I'm like, okay, we have databases, we have LexisNexis, we can find anybody's
You can
phone
find
number,
anybody.
right? So I want to see, like, it's great that nobody that's on LinkedIn wants to work with us for the specific job in the specific micro territory. But if you have X number of people, I want to make sure we're getting to them, and
Yeah.
that's next piece. So a bunch to unpack here, but some of it I think comes back to the original part I was talking about, which is the assigning in and out. How do you deal with the micro assignment of jobs as you're pushing work down from the higher level?
So the way we have a pod system set up, like a lot of PI firms do, but our pods are run by paralegals, and the lawyers work for the
I'm
paralegals.
talking administratively is what I'm focused on.
Administrate. Oh, so it flows me to my COO to my firm administrator, and they divide it up among themselves. And it's just two of them. We are talking about adding an EA or some sort of assistant to their pod, their leadership pod, and that's something that we have on our roadmap for 2026.
And I think
But
that's
I think what they would do in that situation is if it's something that could be systemized, like placing the job ads, following up with people. That's stuff that they can push down because I want them making the higher level decisions, being involved in the interviews and that type of thing. But it does come down to the systems that you build and making sure that you have a system for the stuff that the junior person has to execute so that they have a roadmap and it's not a million questions.
right. And I think the piece that I'm seeing that we've had the light bulb go off is what does need to be done in the office. And if you have a justification for putting a human being there, God bless. In our main DC office for the non-personal injury side, we don't have many people coming through the office. It's less and less.
Yeah.
And the question is what can be done off site versus what needs to be done on site. And should you be pushing off, for those of us that are in more expensive geos, should we be outsourcing to rural Connecticut, Alabama, where have you, or Latin America or Philippines, whatever it is? Should we be thinking about what can be pushed down? Because if we want to keep and maintain our upper level people that are six figures plus, we don't really want them doing these tasks. At the same time, if you're hiring this is the part that kills me, is that an $80,000 salary plus benefits plus breakage, yada yada, is almost $100,000.
Yeah.
I would rather keep and maintain my rock stars by giving them the raises and everything possible that could be an international assistant, that could be AI, that could be possibly a small part of somebody else's
Okay,
job is broken out.
so I've been here. I've been to Price Benowitz offices, right? And I've also been, and we also have friends in the city. What I would do if I were in your shoes is I would have really like an unbelievable lot, like smallish lobby, reception desk, conference room, two offices that are flex offices, and get rid of everything else and
And,
move all of our offices to
and
the
we're a
suburbs.
tale of two cities. Our personal injury department is busting at the seams in office, whereas the criminal lawyers have always been remote, and it's even accentuated by what's going on.
Right, but why not have like the you know the fu come on? We got to do a deposition, so we've
Well,
got the room with this kind of that type of thing.
we have all that, but it's
But then take everybody else and say we're going to the suburbs.
right.
We're going. We're
Right.
going to go to we're
And
going to go to
then look, and
and
then we have the
get
geography
a
again.
warehouse space essentially.
And we now look. We have another significant office in the northern suburbs and in Gaithersburg. Like those things are happening. The question is, and that what happens is, as that happens, there are less people at the mothership, which
Right.
means the justification for those extra pieces. But the real question is, we don't see that reception needed. Like, I guess for me, it's two. I have two floors. Again, it's a
Right.
good problem to have. But like, what do you need? And if nobody's really coming to the second floor, is that just part of one of the paralegals there who, yes, each they rotate opening mail and or Amazon boxes or around getting a door?
Yeah, you could absolutely do that. I mean, when our receptionist is out on vacation, my firm administrator covers the mail that week, and that that we have
There's a
covered.
certain amount of chipping.
And actually, to be quite honest with you, now that I think about it, we've had situations where a remote paralegal has been like, well, that so and so's out. I've got their jobs that I'm going to pick up, and they will drive to the office that week or that 2 week period and do the mail and get the offices
Well,
set up.
if you're lucky enough to have somebody that close,
yeah,
if somebody's that close, they're probably coming in anyway. But I get what you're saying.
Right.
Before we get to, I know you have an issue that you're dealing with. As we're sort of thinking about how do we, go about these shifting pieces with the delegation itself. You have these three receptionists now. When you want tasks that are not regular tasks done, do you have a methodology of sending work to them and making sure it's accountable and done?
So what we have is they are in the reception pod that we have set up. There is a reception pod leader, and inside Slack we have a canvas that we have the
Right,
task.
so that's what we're moving to.
And so we're just using the tools within Slack.
Within Slack. So
Not going
that's
into
the question. You use Slack or do you use something outside of Slack? Got it.
Yeah, we're using Slack, and there's I can add things to the Slack canvas for Jay needs. I think there's one that says Jay needs done.
No, I got you.
And then people check it, and if it's
So finally, on this, to try to land the plane, one of the things that we've seen over time, this started when we started the firm. It was smaller, and everybody was doing different things. Is that when people who are legal assistants, or usually not paralegal, but somebody who's touching legal substance, when you have somebody doing non-legal substance, there's a little bit you get away with. But if that builds up, there becomes a negativity that it's not what their job is, it's not what they were hired for. We would love everybody to be like, hey, whatever it needs to get through the day, but from a job satisfaction point of view, you have people who are chipping in, that's awesome, but do you see that, do you keep that on your radar, that if somebody who's there to do legal work ends up doing something that's more administrative, that it's not going to jam well over time?
Yes, and we actually identified that about 18 months ago. And we actually sat down among leadership, and it's one of the things that we are in the current state recruiting for. We wanted to have a fourth quarter this year hire. We had one that bombed out, didn't work, a remote person that was going to be able to manage some things. But we actually have a job posting for utility player. You will be called on to assist in some legal pods, assembling records, putting stuff together, but you will also work with leadership to put things done. You need to be fluid. You need to be up for a new challenge every day. That type of thing. I forget what a
And I know,
personality.
so I'm literally in a not battle, but the battle that I have with my law partner, right? Where I believe that this is needed. That there's a
Yes,
certain amount
I
of
think it's needed too, and
meaning.
I'll call David and tell him
Yeah,
y'all need
meaning
it.
there's somebody who comes in with their baby and they throw up, or there's an angry client shows up, or there's somebody trying to serve paper. There's always little things that are
Yep.
needed. And I think what happened was we got burnt so badly with decently salaried people who really weren't tasked well, that the fear that you're going to bring somebody in without responsibilities is swinging the other way.
Well, no, I don't think you bring them in without responsibilities. I think you find all of the things that are overflow for all the other jobs. Talk to your pod leaders, find out something that's not legal, but they're doing. I bet you can create a list of 30 things that they're going to be first on in this role. And then, by the way, you also have anything else that pops up.
Right, but then the question is, should you be doing that, or should you just like get it? If every paralegal has 7% non-legal to do, could you save money by not having that extra person?
I see. I'm not at the point now where I'm worried about saving money. My firm is set up to the place where I'm happy with what I'm taking home, and frankly, if it costs me $100,000 and it gets a lot done, and it means 100 things don't come elevated to me or even to my senior
Right,
leadership,
and that's the
we've
piece
got
we
other
don't
stuff
see yet,
going
right?
on.
That's what our senior leadership is screaming about. Our IT guy who
Right.
started at the front desk is like, dude, if you don't have this, you're going to end up with your mid six figure people doing shit you don't want. And while you don't know
Right.
what it is, and it's like it's one of those things you literally would have to go back in time, watch the Google, camera, and say, hey, what was the bullshit this person was running around the office to
But
do?
and so one of the and this and okay, this is a really good point, because one of the things that we made a KPI for this role that we are now currently recruiting for is a Friday what I did this week breakdown, so that we can measure this over time and identify, okay, this is a role that needs to be filled that we didn't
But
envision.
I would argue that likely, and I know this from my days as a junior associate where I build, that what you do at the end of the week is fiction. What you do at the end of the second week is complete fiction. That if you really wanted to do this, it'd be in real time because it's the little shit you can't even remember.
Right, and it's the little shit that happens once every 3 years that
Correct.
you.
But if there you have a
Like,
firm.
here's a perfect example, right? It didn't happen this month. It happened in November, but we had three. We had a deposition because we were giving out our conference room, and we had two clients coming in. We had three events happening at the same time in our office, which normally would not be a problem. But that day, our fire alarm was being tested at that same time, and so everybody would have had to exit the building. So somebody on my team went to the landlord and said, "Hey, we've got something going on. Can we push this test an hour?" And they said, "Yeah, no problem. We'll do the other building first, and then we'll come to you. We'll just rearrange it with the fire chief who has to do these things." But it was because we had somebody who picked up. Oh, wait, that we had now that only happens every 3 years. I mean, we've been in the space now for 15, but so it's happened 5 times. But it's not something I would naturally remember when we were calendaring something. So
Right.
it's those are the types of things that we need somebody to pay attention
And
to.
look, and I think the piece you're saying you don't want to save money. I think right now we're that sort of just like Jay, we're in end of year. We're like, what do we want to spend money on? What we don't. It goes in swings where you're like, hey, I want to have redundancy. I want everything there. And then you look at it and say, oh shit, this is not a great use of redundancy. And
Right.
we're sort of part of that pendulum swing that everybody goes through.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that you need to spend your money wisely, but you don't need to just spend it all. And the more you can take out, the better. It's like I say, I'm a big fan of December being my cut month. I go through, I see what I'm doing, and my I'm looking at my P&L, and I've gone down in areas over last year. I haven't spent as much, and guess what? That means there's more profit to me. But I don't think my client services have gone down, and I'm in a position where I can make more intelligent investment choices for 2026, what we're going to be doing things. I actually have a question for you, and it just popped up. We didn't talk about this before we got on the show, but I'm gonna pivot a little. We've opened all these Google business profiles and we're getting the reviews and we're doing well with them. We have run LSAs, we run pay-per-click, but GBP itself allows you to advertise where they promote your Google business profile. I have never done that. But now I'm thinking for 2026, I've got profiles with, 300, 500 positive reviews. If I dial back my pay-per-click and I put it into the Google business profile advertising, is that like,
you look,
I mean, this is Google wants people on their GBPs.
Jake,
why not opt into their advertising and spend
after their advertising
or
test it? You know the answer. What the hell? The guy's more experimental than anybody else out there. You decide this is the place you're to draw the line and not experiment? Come on.
Well, to be honest with you, I just decided to do it. I just set aside, $35,000 to do it for the first quarter and see what happens.
But I guess to me, it shouldn't be this big a decision. You're spending X amount on paid search. Just reallocate it.
No, I'm going to throw more money into it. I'm going to do something
great. But I'm just saying, like, this is of all the issues. There are issues where, like, oh my God, what am I doing? Existential crisis. It's like, okay, you up your budget, throw some money around it, and see what happens.
I'm just curious of the people that are listening, if anybody's using that paid advertising through your GBP, through your location.
Change that area, as you know, has been the most clunky. And there was a long period of time where they would basically, if you gave them money for pay-per-click, they'd give you love there. Right. So it's basic, this may not be one of those pieces. It may just be like looking at your paid campaign and saying, hey, what are we allowing Google to spend money on? Are you
right? I mean, what I think that GBP stuff is sponsored in the maps.
Correct.
I think that's
historically, it wasn't like it was just basically they would take some of your budget and put it there. Like you couldn't even say I want it. It was, and there were different points where you could do different things with it. So, but before we take off, was something you wanted to talk about from the beginning of the show, a struggle you were having. Employee?
Oh, I got an employee who doesn't want to sign a PIP plan. I disagree with it. I said, it doesn't matter. The PIP is still in place. You're free to write a response and so that your side is documented. And the problem is that their manager is saying, not working up to potential, missing critical things, but I love them for what they do well. I don't want to lose them for what they do well, but they're screwing up some things that are major and shouldn't be doing that a year in. So I want to put them on a performance review plan.
Well, look, we much longer discussion. Didn't realize that we could have a whole episode on this, and we probably will. Sure. But let's talk about it just top level, right? PIP plans, right? Performance, but we actually debated internally whether we should even have them. Right?
Yeah.
Meaning you either keep somebody or you don't. You may give them feedback, but by the time you do that, is it too late? Like what percentage of people come back from a PIP? And I think that person I'm going to give them positive spin.
0.
Right. So that
I don't know if I've ever had anybody come back from a PIP.
I think it's probably 20%. But if this person is somebody who does a lot of good, they don't want to be part of a PIP. They're like, hey, if you have feedback, great. And I think you probably, let's go to the theorem that we've talked about over the years. People do what they like to do. And they're not changing, right? Especially at the age we're at. So, my partner calls it round peg, square hole. Can you justify a job and get rid of the shit that they're doing that is causing the reason for the PIP and build a job around the positive and what they're doing and add other stuff to it to justify the salary?
I don't know. I'd have to talk.
That's the question, right?
That's the question.
If you got rid of the stuff that's causing the PIP, are they a part-time employee now?
Probably.
Right. And so the question is, you can't cut somebody's salary in half. The question is, what can you expand that piece and add other stuff to it? Or is it like the problem is, I'm making this up, the person is $65,000 a year, they're now worth 32, and they may be a great 32, you'd be worth 40 for that amount of work, but you can't get to that larger amount. I think that it's that I'm going to have that homework for a future episode for you to think about, because that's really the question. You're not going to fix that other piece. And that person not signing it and trying to give them the benefit of the doubt isn't saying they don't want to sign it. What they're saying is, I don't want to be gone. I like it here. I'm doing this shit. And your question is, this other stuff that's part of your job, it's not tenable. And so why run into that brick wall? Fight
Yeah, I
get it
mean the
off the
thing
plate.
is that the manager that they work for says like they're great at like 70% of the job and terrible at 30, and the
What's
30
that
that
third?
they're
Just like,
terrible
can
at
we get a little bit more
is
concrete? What's the 30 they're terrible at?
is
Exception.
one of the issues that we have is we get calls from people, because they've been arrested or they've lost their driver's license for years ago, so they got to get on the phone, call up the DMV, manage to figure out why they were suspended, what they need to do to get unsuspended, that type of thing. And so what'll happen is they will call the person who's good at the job to call and get answers, but they're not piecing through the whole, well, what about this wrinkle? Let me ask a follow up. Let me ask this. So they're making, like, instead of making one call, they have to make three, because when they take it to their manager, the manager says, well, did you ask him about this? Oh, no, I didn't. And a year in, the manager's saying, hey, I don't want to have to be the one to ask these questions. You should pick up on this by now.
And look,
But then the
to
manager
me,
says, but then when
look,
we get a
easy
client on the
advice.
phone who's upset, they get on the phone and they calm them down and everyone's laughing in 5 minutes.
Right. So to me, this easier advice to give than to take. Who knows if it will work? But this is one of those. Is it a Dan Martell process problem, or can you McDonaldize it, where every phone call you go through these 10 questions? Can Ruane systems be put there to micro target this issue so that it's like if you go through this checklist, like you have to do a checklist. You can't just think on your own. Is that a viable option here?
Yeah, I don't know. I
We'll
don't
find
know.
out.
I think we're gonna have to figure this out.
But it's look, the struggle is real. Somebody's great at some stuff, not at others. Can you slice off the part that they're great at? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. This sounds to me like it's worth if 70%, getting 70% is not nothing. And if one piece isn't there, the question is, can some training and very strict documentation.
But what the manager's saying is, I've done the training for
Well,
over a year.
but
We've
Jay,
given
they
them all
may
the
have to fit in,
resources.
right? And if you're going to, the question is it? Look, people learn differently. We have all this,
Right.
and is the way that you've been doing it not like if it's a special person you want to try to keep them, or is this something that is there a way of shifting things so that that's not part of their job and the other things are, where they don't deal with the DMV issue.
Yeah, but that's their job. So that's why it's tough. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is a person who didn't work well on intake, and we found another role.
Well, the ding, 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 ding. That's the bigger.
Yeah,
How many times? That's the audience. How many times have we taken somebody who failed somewhere else and put them in a different position? And
but I think they may have failed an intake because of the way we were training people at the time, which was
well,
basically just throw them in, and there wasn't any training.
understood.
Uh,
But the question now is, like you're assuming that your training is there. Easy again. You could throw this right back at me on a bunch of stuff. But I'm saying to Jay, Mr. Systems, I would look at your training and figure out A, is there a different way of putting it? And B, can you break down what's there? If they're making the same mistake all the time, can you make it like you can't be off the phone until these 10 questions? And that might trigger the next piece. If the person's not isn't has decent intelligence, but there's a mental block on something, can you force it that you're not going to just like walk your way through it, but you'll ask 10 questions, 4 of which may be not relevant to something, but you go through that process very
yeah,
strict.
yeah, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough running a business. You know what? Maybe I don't want to do this anymore. You want to buy a firm? I
Like
got good numbers.
every day, I'm seeing more and more. I think criminal is going to be the last thing to go.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I'm getting more and more calls on the PI side in particular. Not that I think it's still way, way early. It's getting there. I think like how you're going to get around the ethics laws, the managed service organizations, a whole other thing. Another show. We're going to show on on this. We're going to do a show on PE coming.
Yeah.
But it's coming.
My plan is not PE. My plan is to sell to my people.
Yeah, and to me that's
and set it up so that I get a modest buyout over 5 years.
not happening. Not happening.
I got 8 years left, and then I'm out. I've already told him. I started 2 years ago.
Yeah. McCready said that, and then he just doubled down and built this juggernaut. So who knows?
Yeah,
Watch Jay. But what I would say is, I don't buy it. In that the reason I don't buy it is you're better off following J. Ruane philosophy of putting huge infrastructure in place and just enjoying your life with less day-to-day
Well, and
responsibility.
this is exactly what you were talking about with your question. Do you hire somebody else to do all those things? Because you're saying, oh, we could just have our paralegals do. No, no, no. Spend the money, get all of that question, all of that fluidity, all of that variability, get it off of your plate and David's plate, and spend the little money that it's going to take. Because at the end of the day, it's just solving headaches for you that you don't have to be involved with.
But
I mean, I'd love to own a law firm and have zero headaches.
right. So what I'm throwing back at you is that what I have seen, particularly outside of the PI space, is that the firm value it's so rare, and that the real way you do it is just reducing your responsibility.
Right, and that's my goal, is to get 100% out.
Right. But what I'm saying is the idea that somebody's giving you a check and going to a bank to get something.
Oh, I'm not. That's not happening.
Right.
That's not happening.
I mean,
My
you
plan
have to
was
pay
sell to my
more to
people,
take over more responsibility.
and tell them, hey, pay me X number of hundreds of thousands of dollars a
That's the
year
part where I've
over
yeah,
5 years.
just like private equity is not right. How many people have successfully done that?
Yeah, but I would take it out of the profit. I wouldn't take it out of.
They don't even have the conversation. Meaning,
Right.
just do it. Meaning, like that to me, like you're like, hey, instead of doing that, you're adding in additional talent to run things, to take responsibility away from you, working more remote, getting out of the court, all that stuff. But that you're realistically, nobody's sitting there and striking you a check. And God, let's say you did do this, and you say, hey, I want you to do it. Then you've lost control, and you're counting on them to get you your money. The odds of that going well, to me, is not nearly as much as just making yourself non-essential
Yeah,
and allowing it
maybe that's the plan. All right, folks. So stay tuned and listen to see if I can make myself non-essential. I guess that's the goal. But that's going to do it for us this week here on the Law Firm Blueprint. Thank you so much for listening to us and being part of this journey with us every week. We never know what problems we're dealing with, but there's always a problem to talk about on the Law Firm Blueprint. That's going to do it for me. I'm Jay Ruane. He is Seth Price. Thank you for being with us. Bye for now.